local, national, international news, and basically just talk smack about whatever's on our minds. I'm here with Tina, Anthony Andrews, who is a top-notch internet sleuth and has some really interesting conversations with people all over the place online. He can track down about anything you want to know. We call him Tony. So Tony, tell us again, what is your Twitter handle?
Yeah, Anthony Andrews, Anthon7Y Andrews.
Yes.
I moved to 7 and the Y once I was nuked on my old account.
You were nuked on your old account, which was probably for similar reasons as what's happened lately, because things have been blowing up. Anthony is really skilled at combing through the publicly available information that we have that applies to the systems we're seeing today. And it's amazing what you can come up with from years and years ago, relationships between people that haven't been obvious, places and times and dates. And so tell us what lately you've been seeing as a trend or a common thread here.
Well, one thing is I'm happy that I spend a lot of time repeating information and also trying to train my followers how to do the same thing I do. So you've noticed in some of my posts, I encourage people to go find and share information because I'm actually trying to show people, hey, I'm not doing anything that anybody else can't do. I just happen to have done it for years, and now I'm starting to see patterns and stuff. And
so you're getting to where you're like really efficient at it, but yeah. It's something that anybody could do if they took the time to sit down and follow a lead or follow a breadcrumb, if you will.
Exactly. And it doesn't take a ton sometimes. You might go to a page that needs to be translated, but we all have translation apps on our devices. So it's easy to do that. And sometimes, you can't necessarily do it from the page itself. Like on Twitter, you can't. If Twitter has a post or X has a post that is in a foreign language and at the top it doesn't have the translate button, which happens fairly often sometimes, as a way to obstruct. I think they do that with anything that's posted in Ukrainian. I've noticed recently Twitter doesn't allow it to be automatically translated. You can't just copy it and then take it and translate it somewhere else. So what I've had to do is, that's another reason why I have so many screenshots, is I screenshot the things, then I take it, and then I can copy and paste the wording from the screenshot, and then I take it into a translate app. Which, I think when I talked to my other friend on a podcast the other day, and he brought it up and asked me to kind of go through this process and stuff, and I explained it's just a matter of just finding ways to find information and then following those little leads and picking up on things. And one thing this morning, to give everybody a very specific example that I just found within the last hour, was I had decided to look at the purchase of Epstein Island in 1988, or Epstein's Island, Little St. James in 1988. And usually when I look at something like that, sometimes I don't find anything of importance. Sometimes I do, related to what I was actually looking for. And other times, sometimes something unusual pops up based off of research I've done in the past. And in this case, two things popped up. One was that the organization, the realty company that handled the transaction, was called Bespoke Realty. So that got me kind of a little flag raised in my brain, because when I've been looking at the Mar-a-Lago Club page on Instagram, not the main, you go to the main page, but you have to actually go to the tagged section of the page. And that's where the good stuff is, because everybody that goes to Mar-a-Lago wants to post pictures of themselves there. So
that's
and I
so weird.
Pictures from there, and it's just a shit show. It's like Hunger Games times 10. They had the furry party the other day. A lot of people have seen stuff about the furry party they had at Mar-a-Lago the other day, next to the pool, dancing in Victorian outfits. Yeah.
Which is a key detail that a ton of trafficked children talk about. They talk about their traffickers during these ceremonies and parties wearing costumes that are childlike, so that when a child tries to tell, they're like, yeah, okay, they were wearing a wolf mask and dressed up like Beauty and the Beast, you know? And adults are like, okay, you have a nice imagination. But you can see, and they're also, I think it's really crazy that they're legislating all over the United States that kids can't wear ears into school on their headbands. But now we have the president of the United States at his social club having maybe adults dressed up in animal costumes. Who knows how old these people are, but it looked very childlike. It looked like something you would take your child to. So why is he doing that?
That looks like just a weird scene from a crazy movie when you look at it. And so when I looked at this, another thing that popped up was that was in my mind with the bespoke realty is that, having reviewed the Mar-a-Lago club page for literally years now, just kind of looking at it every once in a while, seeing who's tagging who, I've come across so many different interesting correlating things that that I still have in my phone, and at some point in the future I'll share it all. But having correlated that, had remembered seeing a page called The Bespoke Life posting and tagging Mar-a-Lago often, like more than any other person on Instagram. This specific page called The Bespoke Life is always taking pictures of celebrities. George Hamilton, they have a picture of him there, that old George Hamilton. They've got Mike Tyson, a picture of him there, a number of other people. That's like their thing, is posting those pictures along with other random, almost magazine type photos of Mar-a-Lago and people there. But the other thing that kind of came up with that when I looked at it is, so now you've got Bespoke Realty that handled Epstein's real estate deal with St. James. Then you've got this Bespoke Life that is always posting and tagging Mar-a-Lago page. And then I had remembered with my frenemy, Artem Klushin, he had posted something years ago on his Instagram that had to do with the Bespoke Club. Now, he is a suit guy, and bespoke as a word relates very specifically to custom suiting and whatnot, which you may or may not know is like actually my expertise, even though I've had a lot of careers in my life.
That's one of your jams. You were
literally one of my things, and so it always seemed interesting to me. So the phrase bespoke and the entities surrounding bespoke appear to be something that we need to look into a little more. When I looked at the organization, the Bespoke Realty Group, it's owned by two brothers who were very young when they first actually started. Right. I just looked at this within the last hour. Very young, Wachowski brothers. Wachowski or something. So not quite American sounding, a little more leaning towards a Rusky
European.
European sounding. So again, I haven't had time to dig too much, but I'd encourage other people to do so as well. I think there's something beyond this thing, and bespoke is kind of a key element in some way tying a lot of this stuff together. The second thing I came across in that one screenshot that I took and posted was that when Epstein actually acquired the property and the house on the property, he had it renovated by a guy named Ed Tuttle. Ed Tuttle is an architect, and some people have already posted stuff about him in my comments, and I'll let you guys go and look, and anybody listening go and look. But he was connected to Amman Resorts. And Amman Resorts is owned by Vladislav Doronin, who was the man, he owns Amman Resorts. He's not only the man that Naomi Campbell was engaged to during all of this, when Naomi Campbell was best friends with Ghislaine Maxwell, but he also owns the Crown Building, which happens to be right across the street from Trump Tower in New York City, or the majority of the Crown Building. He owns resorts all over the world, and in fact, ding, ding, ding,
Gaza.
Jared and Ivanka are actually...
Freaking Jared always shows up in these talks. Every time.
Jared and Ivanka are actually overseeing the building of a resort, and it's actually controversial. I've looked into a little bit, and it's this island in ding 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 Albania, which was connected to Charles McGonigal because
Yeah. Wasn't
and
that where, remember, not to derail, but the adoption situation, remember the meeting in the White House?
the June 9th meeting in the White House in
Yeah.
Trump Tower with Natalie Visitalia.
Weren't they talking about quote unquote Albanian adoptions or something?
Yeah, Albanian adoption. So surprise, surprise, it all starts coming together. And, so you've got the Kushner and Ivanka actually overseeing and doing what they do for a resort owned by Doronin in Albania, which is happening right now. It's actually controversial because the island is considered somewhat sacred to Albanians.
As if they care.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got the fact that Doronin hired Charles McGonigal to be head of global surgery,
Yes.
security after he left the FBI and after he got fired from Brookfield Properties, being the vice president of security for Brookfield.
Can we take a minute and remind everybody who Charles McGonigal is?
Yes.
Just a brief backstory.
Brief. Charles McGonigal is the special agent in charge that was appointed to the New York field office in the beginning of October 2016 by Bill Sweeney and James Comey to oversee Russian counterintelligence in the New York field office in early October 2016. He actually went into position at the end of October 2016, literally at the time that not only did the Wiener laptop information come forward and was leaked, which led to Comey announcing that they were reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton about a week prior to the election, which most historians say is literally the reason she lost the election, was because of that happening. We know there's other things that affected that. But so he was literally the guy in charge of Russian counterintelligence when this happened, but that was the same office that at the same time helped Comey, or had released a statement that the FBI had no indications of any ties between Russia and the Trump campaign. So now when you look at Charles McGonigal and his history, especially his time in New York, many of you know that back in May of last year, I was DM'd by his ex-mistress, Allison Guerrero, and she actually spoke to me for 2 months in DM. She eventually confessed to targeting me because she didn't like the fact that I was exposing her other friends, her other best friends, Rudy Giuliani, Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, Ken Kurson, Mike Caputo. Every single one of them, she is in their inner circle. In fact, I posted a video of her at Mar-a-Lago during the Catholics for Catholics event with Mike Flynn, with Roger Stone, as Roger Stone's guest at one of the lead tables, and she's sitting between Roger Stone and Janine Piero, Judge Janine.
Yes.
Yeah, so right at front and center, and she has a video of herself. I also posted a video of her a handful of days after she started talking to me in DM back in May at Giuliani's apartment or condo or apartment in New York City, bringing a cake out. She videotaped herself bringing a cake out to him for his birthday with his family, where you could see his Eric Trump-looking son. So, McGonigal is truly key to a lot of this. And the things that he actually, and I want to make clear, the things that he went to prison for a very short time, only 4.5 years considering what he did, had to do with him taking bribes from Oleg Deripaska after he left office or left his role at the FBI, and eventually his taking bribes from Albanian government officials, which came after his indictment for bribes from Oleg Deripaska. Although Allison had told me about the Albanian stuff in DM, and she spent a lot of time telling me things that ultimately showed her complicity and also showed a number of things that have not yet been investigated at all by law enforcement for his actions during his time at the New York field office, which I
Right.
believe he is the key to a big part of this, another smoking gun. And if there's one thing I'm good at exposing smoking guns, it's that.
Why do you suppose? I think people listening might wonder, why would someone contact you and then give you self-damning information?
It was interesting. I think at first when she contacted me, her intent was to grow her presence. She's actually admitted that on X, and ultimately to grow attention to her GoFundMe. She had been in an accident which caused a fire in her apartment in New York City. When that happened, and there's really, I don't have a lot of details about the circumstances of that. Knowing her, I would think there's some questionable things about how that went down. But when she actually had that accident, this was post her McGonagall years, she went and was invited to stay in an extra room that Rudy Giuliani had in his condo. So that shows that connection there. And to some extent, on one end, I could think maybe I was targeted directly for the other things I had been doing. I honestly think it happened where she kind of came in, she saw me write stuff about McGonagall, then she wanted me to help give her focus, and she started sharing information with me. She's told me that when she realized that I was talking crap about her,
Okay.
Her best friends, that she wanted to expose me or discredit me in some way. She kept talking to me for 2 full months. I mean, I have the entire DM screenshotted and screen videoed, and you can see I was being very cordial with her. I wanted to be helpful based off the information she was giving me, but she was giving me some serious information that nobody has ever even looked at. I mean, even Albanian news picked us up about talking, and because they had seen some of our comments, and she had sent me a DM that day, and she's like, "Look, we're famous in Albania." So again, I think her intent was more about gaining her own backing to actually just get money from people. Because even after
Interesting.
I blocked her and she blocked me, she still posted something about, well, every time Tony Gonzalez talks about me, I get a little more money from people in my GoFundMe.
Interesting.
That's what it ultimately seems to her.
Well, and I think we need to remember these people are not the smartest, and they totally run on emotions.
I was going to say that if you're involved, hypothetically, whether this is a true statement, whether you believe any of this stuff or not, but if you're involved in something that's shady, probably the last thing you should do is go on the internet and tag yourself. But yet, assuming that people like McGonagall got tried and convicted and went to jail for stuff. So we know at least in that particular sector, he was found guilty of that, right?
Well,
So that just tells me that if there's something happening, they're making some stupid choices, right?
Oh, yeah. I agree. And the thing is I think ultimately her engagement with me, she eventually said she tried to tell me stories. I think she was trying to cover up her stuff. But when I actually started digging based off the information she was giving me, and I was looking at public information that was out there, there's a lot of interviews that she did with Albanian news agencies where even then, long before she spoke to me, her stories didn't match up. In one interview, she said that she had a lunch date. That was her first meeting with Charles McGonagall. It was a lunch business date. And he started telling her that his wife wasn't putting out, essentially. And they ended up having sex in his FBI SUV that day.
Oh, my God.
And another article.
Scandalous.
Literally, in another article that anybody can find online, she says, and she even told me in DMs, "Oh, I would never date somebody who's married." And it wasn't until I found out he was married that I decided to do anything about it.
Oh,
So
wow.
that is one instance.
The other thing that I just want to make sure people understand is that lots of people come out of the woodwork and try to communicate with you. And it's not like you're believing everything you're told. Like, you're vetting things and looking into things, and there's a lot of stuff that you throw aside because it's clearly not
Or you
legit.
can't verify you have no other. Well, a lot of people come to you and they don't have a clear what do you need? Like,
Yeah.
are you just telling me this because, or do I need to help you or what? But you do get a lot of breadcrumbs this way. And
Yeah.
I don't, yes, you have to vet things, but also do not discredit what survivors are coming forward and say, in general, people, because once people start believing that things are happening, more people are going to come out. Some people are going to come out for money. Like, yes, we should say, hey, if anyone on here wants to donate to Allison's GoFundMe, apparently she needs it. But since we're going to talk about her, we should probably throw that out. But, and again, later we're going to talk about the Sasha Riley story and how all of these things connect, and people need to keep telling their stories. You know what I'm saying? But Allison's kind of full of crap. But
Well, and one thing I'd like to add real quick is one, we talked about this privately. You guys, I've determined I have a name for you, my Agatha Christie's.
Agatha Christie's, yes.
I just came up with
I love it. Oh, that's 100% the episode title right there.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is I forgot where I was going with that. Is I told you guys I've shared with you a lot of stuff, like so much stuff that I have not shared public because of the things that we're talking about. I haven't
Sure.
completely. I haven't or in terms of just honoring privacy from people.
Sure.
Now, yesterday and this weekend, I indicated a source that I have that we had talked about briefly, anonymously, and I did tell the source that I had to indicate that they had shared information that I thought was credible enough to connect it to the Sasha story, which had to do with the farms.
The fact is that you're a better journalist than most journalists.
Well, I think most journalists are down.
Well, right. You're following leads. You're keeping people private when they need to be. You're not putting anything out there that isn't publicly available. You're really doing a great job.
Well, thank you. And I don't like the name journalist because I don't think I am. I want to come up with something.
Perhaps that's imposter syndrome. I don't know.
Yeah, but so there's a lot, there's a handful of other people that have DM'd me, and I've given them the time and energy to try to help them in a way, because always every approach I do, you've seen the screenshots, you've seen the stuff, I'm always trying to be as reasonable in understanding what they're trying to share with me as possible.
Right.
But I'm also very straightforward. I tell them I've been targeted before.
Right.
If I feel that you're not sharing credible information with me, or you're trying to come after me, I'm going to eliminate you from being in any type of contact with me.
Yeah, at best, that's a waste of your time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So should we dig into the Sasha Riley story?
So Sasha Riley has been in the news a lot lately.
Not in the mainstream news.
On social media. And I've seen their name pop up like in Facebook, where like the elderly people hang out.
Yeah.
And usually by the time something filters itself out over to mainstream Facebook, like most people that are paying attention have known about it for a long time. But this is a person who I'll say allegedly, because there's been no court trial, but allegedly was a victim of these circles back in the 90s?
80s.
80s, okay.
80s.
And testified for a whole day, several hours.
What, with a journalist in an interview style
Okay. So maybe
setting.
Not under oath, but
yes.
But and communicated their experience, what they've been through, and some of it was very detailed, some of it was a little vague, and it's 100% horrifying and traumatic. And trigger warning for people out there that if you're going to look at this, be prepared to be absolutely gut punched, and you may throw up. Okay, it's horrible.
Well, what I've noticed from people that I talked to on Facebook, because it's come up a couple of times with people I know on Facebook that they're actually in my town that I live in, and they don't want to dig into it because it is horrifying, and they know it's horrifying. And I think I don't want to desensitize the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody does need to know and understand how horrifying it is.
Well, and once you listen to the interview pieces, and again, if you have been through a traumatic event such as sexual abuse, maybe don't listen to some clips. You do not have to put yourself in that situation. But if you have not been a victim of these sort of crimes, you need to listen. You owe it to this poor boy to listen and discern for yourself if you think this person is telling the truth. Okay. And because your intuition will know when you are listening to him. And we also have we've done a lot of corroboration that we're going to talk about, going forward. But just listen. For one, how could you make these things up? I mean, this is 6 hours of interview of the most horrific shit that people that were supposed to protect him did not do and actually inflicted on him. But, why would someone do that, for one? For two, he's been talking since what, 2021?
Yes, and I think that's key right there. On his Facebook, on his Instagram, on his X accounts, not so much his Instagram, he only has one picture up there on his Instagram, but on his Facebook account and on his X account, he has detailed things going back to 2021 when he was posting these things that are very consistent with exactly what he's saying in these interviews. And the one thing I'll say is, I used to always tell my son, if you never tell a lie, you don't ever have to remember anything. And I think that's key to kind of his testimony, so to say, or his interview information, because it's super consistent. In my experience, and I've dealt with a lot of liars in my life, I think a lot of us have in one way or another. In my experience, their story always changes at some point, especially when you go 5 years into it. And to be able to concisely share information that is exactly the same as information you had shared years ago is not somebody who's making something up.
So, well, and also, I forgot what I was going to say. But, okay, so I wanted to do you think we should give maybe a little rundown of kind of the claims he's making, and then we can kind of go through and talk about what we have found regarding the claims he has made that we can tie back into public information?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sasha was adopted from Germany at age 4? 4. Okay.
So born in Germany, is that correct?
That's what we understand. He was born in Germany, although I did see something that said he was born in Oklahoma. I corrected that. Actually, it wasn't. It was the girl with the green hair on TikTok.
Yes, okay. Yes.
Born in Oklahoma, but he was, from what I've seen in the adoption papers, say he was actually
that he has posted. You can find those.
Posted himself. And I have screenshots of them, and I've shared on X, are from where it says he was adopted from Germany.
Right. Yes. And I've seen that. So, okay. So there's a piece of information that corroborates that part of the story. Okay. So adopted from Germany by William Riley.
Kyle.
Correct?
Right. William Kyle Riley.
William Kyle. What?
Middle name in there, only because on Facebook, that's the name he goes by, although I've heard that he made his Facebook private the other day. And I looked at it the first day that all this came out, I looked at his father's Facebook, and the one corroborating information I found there had to do with him being a helicopter pilot.
Correct. Okay, so his dad was a pilot, and according to Sasha, could fly all different kinds of aircraft, okay? Helicopters, planes, all that shit. So his dad was a helicopter pilot. The mom that adopted him, her name was Irene. She disappears out of the story in early childhood, and the dad remarries a lady named Mary Lynn, who also goes by several different names if you look at her background check. So once he got a little bit older, his dad worked for Epstein, allegedly, and flew the planes with the victims and the people going to these parties. And he talks about farms a lot. That's where a lot of these parties that he and his dad would take him and sell him to people. Go ahead, Tony.
One, we need to be very clear that there were 2 Bill Rileys involved in the Epstein.
Correct.
So, we want to make sure that we clarify that there are 2 Bill Rileys, so misinformation can occur if people start going off on the wrong track. So make sure they look at the right information. There's plenty of...
And who is the other Bill Riley that is in the Epstein files that we can see? Is he a lawyer or a...
An investigator, I think.
Okay, private investigator. So in the Epstein files, you will see Bill Riley. That is not William Riley, okay?
And I think the email that was referred to in the Epstein files, where only the name Bill Riley was said, and it was between Epstein and, I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but if you look at it, you'll know who the person is. And it was just Bill Riley, and then and a no was a response. And I think it had to do with trying to find a private investigator to help
Right.
discredit the victims. And one thing I'd like to add to that is there's documented facts that are available both from court records and newspaper reports, and I have them also. That was like one of Alan Dershowitz's main things, is he literally went and tried to discredit all the victims by going to their MySpace pages. We all remember MySpace, and we didn't know what it was, and it was cool and it was fun, and we were all putting crazy stuff out on our MySpace pages. And so these young children, when they're 14, 15, 16, 17, had these MySpace pages, and they were doing what children do on MySpace back in the day, posting their stories about what fun they were having and different stuff. So Dershowitz went and used their MySpace pages to try to discredit them. And there's newspaper articles and government documents that state that.
And he did that with multiple different victims. He did it with Virginia. I actually read an article that he's been speaking out recently about trying to discredit Sasha Riley. I have not found any corroborating. I have not found that article, so don't quote me on that. But it sounds like something he would do.
And if he has, I think that's just more credibility than less.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the thing that's different about the Sasha Riley story is he is openly saying names of people that he either can specifically remember seeing at the party or who assaulted him. So, Tony, do you have that list? Or Lisa, do you have that list?
I know Jim Jordan, Donald Trump, Lindsey Graham, Andy Biggs, and I think there's at least one or two other people.
Clarence motherfucking Thomas. Okay. Okay. And so I fully did listen to these interviews. And so Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas were not accused of doing anything, according to Sasha, from what he can remember. And he specifically throughout these interviews will say, I don't clearly remember something, so I'm not going to say it. So that gives him more credit in my mind as well. But go ahead, Lisa.
Well, I just wanted to point out that this might be an example of, you could have a person that has, hypothetically, no nefarious intent, right? And they're not participating in this stuff, but they get invited to a thing where they're in a situation and now they're present at the site where bad things are happening. And that can be used against them, as leverage, right?
Absolutely. Compromise.
We can prove you were here.
Yes.
Whether they meant to be there or did nothing. And I think that's an important point when we might hear someone's name involved in these things, but we shouldn't assume that they were criminals, right? That needs to be proven through the court.
But at what point in your morality are you complicit if you did not do anything about it?
Well, let me tell you what my feeling is here. I'm sorry for interrupting real quick, but is everybody that's in any of the files that's been listed that's still alive needs to speak about it publicly, period. I don't give a shit who you are. You need to come forward and explain your stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that there's probably a lot of pressure on them to keep their mouths shut, whether it's violence against their family or violence against them or,
Well, exactly. I agree.
It's probably not easy to do.
Oh, and I would agree. And I think we've known that, there's been open public information that's come out through news media that several congressmen have stated that they've been threatened on certain votes that have occurred, especially Republican congressmen. They and their families have been threatened by, the Trump machine, that if they don't comply, bad things will happen. That's public information that's out there.
Right.
So I understand.
I do understand, but I don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm judging the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
But also, what?
Oh, go ahead.
I would say I'm right there with you as far as the judging the fuck out of him. That's why Naomi Campbell's the greatest example. Fuck that bitch. Sorry I'm cussing so much. But she was engaged to Jerome, and she was Ghislaine's best friend. There's literally a post that I posted showing a picture of a tweet of Virginia Guthrie calling her out saying, bitch, you know what you saw, so why are you still acting like a dumb bitch?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And not to mention that her line of work, she was very prominent in her, she's a supermodel, right?
Yeah.
So she was probably
It was
key
a
in
funnel.
pulling people in.
It was a funnel, baby.
Anyway, we don't.
Okay,
we
sorry.
digress. But so okay, so all these prominent names were at this.
Okay, so these
party.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens? They're days long, is how he describes it. And so at the first start of the party, there'll be a shit ton of people there. Well, as the party goes on, we hit day 2, day 3, people start to funnel out, and then the real sadistic shit starts, like the weird shit. So Lindsey Graham and Clarence Thomas were both there in the beginning times, but he did not say that they abused him, and he remembered them because he states, "My dad made fun of Lindsey Graham's feminine mannerisms, so I remember that, and then I remember Clarence Thomas was the only black person at the party, so that's why he's like, I remember those people." Then Jim Jordan and Andy Biggs both almost beat me to death, so I remember them. And Andy Biggs actually got in trouble. My dad took me away after that one and was like, "You can't fucking kill him because CPS is on our ass, and if he dies, I go to jail and you go to jail." And so it was a big thing.
And that's key right there. I think the thing is a lot of people are talking about like Jim Jordan as an example. Given the time frame, he would have been a teenager, and
he was 18, and he was a co-coach. He was the vice coach for Ohio State.
And
at 18.
Yep.
And Andy Biggs, stating that his father said, or he told his father that he was told he could kill him if he wanted to. So he beat the boy, or the kids, excessively. Just goes to show that, these people were grooming their own children to be a part of this lifestyle, essentially, is what I'm taking from that. So,
and they would make like $5,000 a pop, like what?
And you look at somebody like Matt Gaetz, whose father was a prominent person in Florida, and then what Matt Gaetz has been accused, and we know he's done in terms of pedophilia and all of that.
And then the 12-year-old that lived with him that he adopted.
Yes. So, I mean, there's just so much obvious evidence. Now, the kid, I think I talked to you guys about this. The thing that I think is likely true is Nestor is actually Matt's child from a encounter he had in Cuba with an underage girl, and somehow the way that they ended up taking care of it, because it's also alleged that Matt Gaetz' father helped cover up the death of his roommate, which was suspicious back in college as well. And anybody can look this stuff up. All you have to do is simply get Google searches or any other web browser you want to do. A lot of the MAGA people say Google's not reliable. Well, I don't give a shit. Go to any other web browser. You're still finding stuff. And Nestor is the child of Matt Gaetz, and I believe that's why there's been no backup to it. They're just like, we're leaving it alone because it's a dead end. It actually makes sense that Nestor was his son from a relationship probably when he was younger and on a trip to Cuba for whatever reason, and he probably raped a young woman there in a circumstance that was set up for him, and that produced a child, and that child is Nestor Gaetz. And what I've seen on his Instagram and even on Nestor's Instagram is, because I've looked at all that stuff over the years, is that Nestor lives a fairly normal life as a kid, and he does all the normal kid things. And he does stuff with Matt Gaetz, and it's very fatherly looking, and it doesn't seem to be nefarious. So I hate kind of popping that bubble in, so to say, because I think there's a lot to it. But I think what people on the surface think is not what it's about. Now, the Mike Johnson adoption
little weirder,
which we don't need to get into unless you guys want to.
Okay, about popping that bubble though, it looks, knowing these people, they're doing that to their own children. So I don't know if that would even stop Nestor from living this sort of life if he was actually Gaetz' biological child.
Well, and he's possibly being groomed to carry on the lifestyle of his father.
Yeah. We just don't know.
So,
Okay.
but I publicly put out there, if somebody can find that information, I honestly think Nestor is Matt's real son. Visually, when you look at him, the combination, there are some indications.
That's your working hypothesis there.
My working.
How big's his forehead? Did you measure it from the photo?
Okay, so let's double back to Jim Jordan. And I think he's just a horrible human being, right? And he's been tied to nefarious things in the wrestling world for a long, long time. But I do have an issue with, there's no way he could have been an 18-year-old coach. So how do we sort that out?
Let's look it up.
While you're looking it up real quick, the farms thing, not to get off on it.
Yeah. Let's pivot to farms, which is real estate again. We started with real estate.
A number of things I found as I decided to review the Epstein logs from the first trial that I kept from, like 2018 or 2019, because I thought they'd disappear given the Trump administration's actions. I saved them, screenshot them all, and I have them in my phone. I've had them for years, and I've reviewed them periodically over years, but most recently, things are truly coming to light with this new information we have from Sasha.
Word.
And things that he talked about as having flown on the plane but never being identified. And that is clearly shown when you look at any of the flight logs. You don't even have to choose a specific one. You can practically look at any page of any of the flight logs and see that oftentimes they named people that were flying, just like Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein were JE and GM. And then you've got Selena Middlefart, you've got Sophie Biddle, and a number of the other people. In this particular page that I found, Paul Mellon, the father of Tim Mellon, who donated to both Tulsi and RFK Jr.'s presidential campaigns to the tune of millions. And he also he gave Trump $130 million to pay the troops during our shutdown. Paul Mellon is on the flights as well. But on that specific log, it shows two females. Right. Females.
So they're not identified with a name. They're just two females.
Exactly. And one of my followers pointed out on that specific page that above it said something about what we first thought was Axabee Farms. It said two females, and then in quotes it said Axabee Farms. Well, it actually is Rockaby Farms. And the airport that's attached to that log, which I actually show in the full log, not just the close-up screenshot, actually shows that they flew into W47 airport code, which is in Upperville, Virginia, which is a 6-minute drive to Rockaby Farms, owned by the Mellon family, and it's about 270 acres. So
what did the Mellon family just do, by the way? Didn't the Mellon family just donate a bunch of money are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The Mellon isn't that the family that donated all of that money to the military?
Yeah.
So they could be paid?
Yeah, $130 million to the military, saying that they were going to, that was going to pay for the military being paid during the shutdown. Yes.
Right. So when I hear Mellon, I think Carnegie Mellon. Is that the same lineage?
Could be. Let me look it up.
Okay, hold on. So Jim Jordan became coach in 1986, assistant coach.
Okay, so he was old enough to be a coach in the
80s. He had just graduated college.
Okay, so he would have been
21.
Like 21, 22 years old?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not to say that he wasn't involved in anything prior to that when he was a child, given what...
Right.
We don't know his story.
And we also know Wexner has a lot of direct links to Ohio State. Les Wexner has a lot of links. I would also point, just for the shits and giggles of it, is, Epstein was the one who talked Southern Air Transport to move to Columbus, Ohio from South Florida once they were going bankrupt, after having been revealed as a CIA front from the beginning. They were a cargo transport company.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. And I remember talking about that.
Yeah.
For folks that aren't familiar with that name, he's the guy that owns the company that does Victoria's Secret. What else? Is it American Eagle?
Limited. Yeah, but way back in the day, it was Limited, Victoria's Secret, Express Men.
Yes.
and a couple other big ones too. So, and then
Right.
over time they kind of split up. I have an interesting story real quick about that. I think I might have shared with you guys before. I had opened a store for Structure, which is now Express Men. I was a manager back in the 90s, early 90s. And I had opened a store in San Luis Obispo, California, right on their main drag there, and it was considered a flagship store. And when we opened it, the executives from Ohio flew in on a private jet to come visit the store a week after we opened it, because that's what executives do. And I had to rent a van and actually go, and this was pre 9/11. I was able to drive out onto the tarmac and actually go drive to the plane to pick them up. And I don't remember who the executives were that came. But you have to figure this is California, San Luis Obispo. A lot of stuff going on in that whole coastline area, Monterey and stuff.
Yeah.
And when I went to pick them up, they actually invited me on the plane to check it out. I was 23 at this time. I was probably the most handsome I'd ever been in my life. I was model material because that's what they hired at the time. And they had invited me to go on this plane because it was a big deal. You got to check out the plane that we all flew on. Now, I think those planes were part of the fleet of things that had been involved in a lot of this stuff as well.
Well, and again, that ties back into, I mean, people competed to be a Victoria's Secret model. You know,
And Abercrombie's part of the Wexners too. And
which, you know,
and that guy went to prison for a long time, didn't he? The Abercrombie owner?
I think so.
Yeah.
We'll have to follow up on that. But you were looking up something. I had gotten off track.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I looked up the Jim Jordan thing. So it sounds like he was about 21 at the time that Sasha was talking about him. But okay, so they went to all these farms, and these are where these things would happen. So he got beat up by Jim Jordan and Andy Biggs, but Donald Trump is who he specifically says was the most sadistic person he had ever met in his life, like just the worst human being. And he'll never forget him because of how terrible he was to him and how sadistic it was. So he talks about a situation where Trump is at this party and he wants to kill someone, and the people at the party are like, hey, this party isn't a killing party. I guess we have some puppies out back if you want to kill the puppies. So he specifically talks about Trump bringing in and stabbing and mutilating these puppies and traumatizing him and then assaulting him. So then he said he doesn't know how much time went by, but he ended up, Trump wanted him again. And he's at one of these parties, and apparently someone shot another little girl in the head, and then Trump assaulted Sasha. And Sasha at this point was like, I went crazy. I knew that he was going to kill me, so I thought I was going to kill him first. And he claims that he shoved a tent stake in Donald Trump's rear end, and he had to be life flighted out. That's a big claim, right? Right?
Yeah,
so,
huge.
Okay, so, but my thought, okay, how could we prove this? Well, we could never get Donald Trump's health reports, right? Why would you hide your health report if you were totally healthy and didn't have someone stab you in the ass with a tent stake? I don't know. Also, his main doctor from from around his age 40s and on up was a gastroenterologist. That's not usually your main doctor, okay? And then also, there are all these claims and videos of people behind Donald Trump making a face like they're smelling the worst shit ever. Noel Kassler has said that Donald Trump wears a fucking diaper forever. I'm not diaper shaming, but if you were raping somebody and they stuck a tent stake in your ass, I'm going to make fun of you for that if that's why you're wearing a diaper. But, just things like that. Okay. Yeah.
Donald Trump was not the original Diaper Don.
Who was the original Diaper Don?
Don Jr. He was known in college for drinking so much that he shit himself. So his nickname in college was Diaper Don. I posted this several times online.
What did he... that, those men are terrible, but what do you think fucking happened to them? Because you look at pictures of those two little boys, his two sons, when they were little, and you look at this picture of Sasha Riley when he was that same age, and they look the fucking same. Okay. Exactly. So just like how he said, if Ivanka was my age, she's the hottest, look at her piece of ass, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So remember we talked about how at this party when the tent stake went up that little girl was killed, okay? So later on in Sasha's life, he went into the military. When he was in the military, he got, brought into the office and they were like, "Were you in this child porn when you were little?" And he was like, "Yes, that's me." Because there was another soldier that was got caught with this child porn. And remember, Sasha was about 12, I think, in this video. So if he was, I don't know at what age this all went down. So because in my mind, I'm like, you probably don't look the same as when you're 12, but I guess you can look pretty similar. So it's called a snuff film, and then they shoot somebody in it. They kill somebody during the porn. It's fucking weird. And so there is video evidence, and that soldier that got caught with it got court-martialed, right? So there was allegedly an FBI report done about this, but no follow-up, Sasha says. So some people on the internet were like, Sasha talks about this trailer park that he lived in. They found the trailer park. Weirdly, the trailer that he lived in was on Trump Road in this trailer park. And there's also a Samantha Road right next to it. Okay. And Samantha is the girl that allegedly got shot in that snuff film. Okay. So there are all these names. Like, it's very weird, guys. But the address match it. What?
I did online that exact location in that trailer park yesterday, and it's actually in Indiana, Greenbrier, Indiana.
Oh, it's Indiana. Okay, I'm sorry, but was I correct about the Trump Lane and stuff? Okay.
There's also that property. I don't know if you're going to come to this, that Trump owns in Florida. That's just a little piece of swampland that he refuses to give up. From what I'm seeing, he owns this
right.
And that doesn't mean anything. Now, if I was to add something here, is that corroborates a lot of this from my anonymous source that you guys are well aware of. That person did discuss, and they identify as they, also did discuss body drop areas. Now, they have told me specifically that the body drops weren't necessarily on the farms where these things had occurred. They were actually usually the bodies, or in this case, what I was told is close to dead bodies, being that person that we talk about, were usually picked up by a helicopter and flown to whatever the actual drop zone was. They recall, and part of what I've been doing with them, as you know, is trying to help them kind of jog their memories, because there's a lot of trauma. And they have told me specifically one of their main goals is to try to put the pieces of their life together, which is very sensational. You know it. I haven't shared much about it publicly, but it does align even better than Sasha's story does. I think you guys know that. And they have told me that they were dropped into one of these zones and left for dead, and eventually escaped that area, but it wasn't where they were originally heard at. And they said they didn't know if it was in Florida that they were flown to from the farm that they were at, or if it was somewhere in Missouri that they were flown to, which is you guys' home state.
Hey, dang, and there are links to, when Sasha was a child, because there are tons of CPS reports that you can read, because CPS was on their ass, but just never did anything. But they would move from state to state. Like, they have over 15 addresses listed. So he had the first wife, Irene, then she went away. We can't find anything about her. Then we have Mary Lynn, who has like 15 different addresses. She died in 2019. She had a nursing degree they found in Indiana. Okay. Gross. And then third wife, Cindy, because William Kyle Riley is still he's still alive. He's on Facebook. He has a third wife named Cindy. So we were kind of looking through her. And so we realized that a lot of the things that, if it's not in William Kyle Riley's name, it's going to be in his wife's name. A lot of the things will be in the wife's name. So there's this third wife, Cindy, and upon looking into their addresses and the homes that they live in now, they were in a when they bought them, they were in a trust from Deutsche Bank. What do we know Deutsche Bank from?
Yeah, Donald Trump, Judge Kennedy, Justice Kennedy, whole bunch of stuff. Russia.
Yeah. Justice Kennedy's son was working for Deutsche Bank.
He was Donald Trump.
And you can go through a lot of these addresses and see like when they were sold and who they were sold to. And one of these specific addresses that was under Cindy and William's name was sold to this man named Anthony Sisko. And kind of looking deep into him, he actually, it says he was a pastor, of course, evangelical child's pastor. I love that.
Of course.
And then but you go to his LinkedIn and stuff, and he actually owned a recruiting business in Alabama and then started working in cybersecurity and then opened a ministry-related healthcare company. And you can look up the picture of one of the companies that he owns, and it's a picture of a bedroom that looks eerily similar to these abuse bedrooms that these kids are being abused in. And it's on the Georgia State Health Services site. So, I mean, these people are openly advertising what they're doing.
They're advertising for the people that know what to look for.
Right. Yeah. It's like a dog whistle, you know, if you know type of thing, which, let's face it, until the last, I sure didn't know. I mean,
well, and it's hard to believe because just like Tony, it's crazy.
So horrific that a normal average person would hear this and say, there's no way. They would say there's no way that a parent would like provide their own child for those horrendous purposes and just stand by. You know, most people can't fathom that.
But the more you go into these torture-based mind control situations and all of these programs that are government sponsored, you can look it up. It's in the archives. Like, we know that all of these things are so fragmented for these people that when they try to have a coherent narrative about it, it just like the when they're dressed up in the costumes and the kids try to come forward and say something.
Well, and there's a lot of other arms to this, octopus arms to this, whatever you want to call it, because, you know, the operation was centered on trafficking and sex, blackmail, whatever. But then you also have like Cindy Yang at Mar-a-Lago, who, you know, is a regular one, and she owned all those massage parlors, one of which
the adoption agencies.
Yes, and Elliot, what's his name? Elliot, the guy that got busted for the massage parlor, getting a massage at one of the massage. And then he's the one that also, Elliot Brody, and he's the one that also settled $1 million for impregnating a Playboy model. But the rumor is, allegedly, that he took the heat for that when in fact it was Donald Trump who had impregnated the model.
Because there was evidence of a payment trail, right?
Yeah. So it all ties together eventually.
Oh, Lord. It's hard to wrap your brain around. It really is.
What's funny to me is, you know, I've been doing this for a while and just like little by little piecing various things together. And what's truly happening exponentially right now is it's all coalescing so much. It all makes so much sense. I keep telling people, just go back to my pinned profile and start reading that. Reread, you know, because it starts to make more sense than it ever did each time you read it. Kind of like the Steele dossier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
well, you know, my thought, as you guys know, we've talked about this before, but so people can listen to this and they might think, oh, that sounds feasible, and to, you know, as an individual, to me that does not sound feasible, and pick and choose what they think about this. But regardless, if there's any truth to any of it, we're in a position right now where we don't have a functional FBI or Justice Department to hold anybody to justice if charges were brought.
Yeah.
Right? So
the people doing the crimes are now in charge of these agencies.
Right. So it seems to me that the only way forward for this is to win some elections. And I'm sorry, but assuming we have some fair elections, because that's not a given right now, unfortunately.
The other day, he doesn't think we need to have an election.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but one other thing I'd like to add is something I haven't shared publicly. I think I might have shared it with the two of you. It was more out of respect for Ed, but he I know he talked about it last night. He said on his radio show, we've been talking a lot this week about
Who is this you're talking about, Tony?
Ed Opperman.
Oh, okay.
Ed Opperman, he was the investigative he was a private investigator by Katie Johnson's lawyers in 2016, leading up to all of that stuff that went down. He's also contributed to the Virgin Islands lawsuit, and he's also testified to Congress. He's a very legitimate private investigator. He's the one that had reached out to me way back in July, August, when I was talking about Zampoli and Melania. And had me on his podcast. But one thing that he had shared with me when all of this broke was in July, he was supposed to actually have Sasha Riley on his show, and Sasha kind of flaked on him and didn't actually answer the call. The way it works is Ed calls you at a given time, and then the interview with Ed being recorded. I've done that 4 times now, and Sasha didn't answer the phone on their agreed upon time frame. Now, Ed always vets people before he talks to them also. So that has to give some legitimacy to Sasha.
Absolutely.
Right.
Opperman was actually going to talk to him. And but the reason supposedly that he was told later, he was all pretty much ghosted by Sasha, but he was kind of told that it had to do with lawyers and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'd like to point out is, once again, this is encountering the information he's sharing. One thing Ed said this week publicly on X, I think in a comment to me, was, the way that Sasha's going about it could be done better and differently than what he is doing now. And one of the things I've tried to do specifically with Sasha on Threads is tell him I can help him.
Right.
Ways. And he has been commenting to randos in his threads for the last several days, making various comments saying, I can say this, I can't say this, this is what happened to me, this is the detail I have. And it's been kind of odd to me that one of his main things is he wants us all to get out there, but he's not using the resources that are somewhat being provided to him. Now, I'm hoping different very soon, because I think he's seeing what I and others have been doing for him, like the TikTok girl we were talking about, because yesterday I had commented to him on a comment he made to somebody, and it was Threads is similar to social, Truth Social, where there's not a lot of engagement, and you pretty much can assure that when you comment to somebody and they're looking at their comments, they're going to see it, like Trump does on Truth Social.
Right.
And I had commented and even sent a private DM to Sasha at the beginning of all this, just saying, hey, I think I can help you. I have contacts like Ed at the time, which I didn't know, I'd already been in contact with him, and other people like my Epstein wiki group that I'm working with that help kind of give credibility to this if he wants that help, which is what he's asking for openly on social media.
Right.
But he's talking to all these randos, and he's not responding to the people that he knows who could help him. But today, finally, I noticed last night when I got off work late last night, missed it. Sasha followed me on Threads, and that's the only thing that he's been
posting on regularly.
Sharing stuff from his Facebook, sharing stuff.
Right.
Twitter.
Well,
he's only active on Threads.
If only a fraction of what he said is true, hypothetically, he's got to have some trauma issues and maybe not trust issues, and I can only imagine what position that puts him in.
Exactly. And that's what I explained to him in the DM. I said, I know, I'm sure you have a lot going on. I'm sure a lot of people are coming to you. There's a lot of nefarious people out there that are either going to try to discredit you or whatever.
Right.
I genuinely...
Or take advantage of him for sensationalism.
And I had told him, I said, I genuinely want to help. Yeah. I think I know people that can help. I think my experience can help him if he can share information with me. And I also think, and I also told him, I said, I don't monetize, unlike most of the people out there that are contact. I'm not trying to do anything other than shine a light on it. And I actually gave him my X handle and of course he had my Threads handle. I said, just vet me, look at my information. And
yeah, please do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people on Threads that are telling him, hey, yes, talk to Tony.
Yeah.
So we'll see if anything comes of it. Again, I understand the trauma and whatever. I can't imagine what he's dealing with. It probably is a little more than overwhelming consideration it's been getting. So I can only imagine what kind of messages and calls he's been getting and all this other stuff. So I have more information that I found on him that I don't think is relevant to the circumstances. But I shared some of his Facebook stuff online. I think it's very interesting, and this is my own little theory, is I think people that have trauma eventually use tattoos as a way to kind of deal with that trauma. And brought this up before, even specifically regarding my son. My son uses tattoos as a way to give himself comfort when he has a during event, and he's even acknowledged it to me. And I think I think it was 5 years ago, Sasha Riley started getting a tremendous amount of tattoos. And it was right when they were starting to expose all of this stuff online. And I
wonder if it's like a control over your body, I can do, because this is my body, and it probably feels a little good to have a little pain, a little outlet, all of it.
That's exactly what it is with my son. I mean, I've openly talked to him about it. He's acknowledged that, yes, when he has a traumatic event or somebody pisses him off or he gets in a bad fight, is the way that he always is able to most deal with it is go get a tattoo, which I don't agree with.
Yeah. Well, as long as he isn't getting face tattoos, we're
Everybody's
good.
different.
Well,
Everybody has their own struggle.
Yeah. I have to wrap this up because I made a deal with my daughter. I have to take her to get her toes done. But one thing I wanted to point out about the Sasha Riley story, that before we hop off, I have seen no defamation lawsuits brought forward from any of those 5 men that he has named openly since 2021. And I know that Donald Trump will sue anybody for anything except calling him a pedophile. So take with that what you will.
I agree. And Melania ain't coming after me, and I wrote a really serious thread about her. I talked some serious
She dropped her stuff with Michael Wolff as well. Pussy. Okay. All right, guys. Well, so fun to always have you on, Tony. We wish you luck next week. Yeah.
Thanks for the work you do, Tony. We appreciate you.
I just do it because I can.
Yeah. Well, and everybody else can. Take that as a note. If you guys all just take 1% of this work for us, we can actually be fun people again, okay?
Remember, while we still can.
Still can. Hey! Okay, you guys have a great afternoon, okay?
You too, Tina. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.